hormones are all over the place. So sometimes we do start feeling like we're going into a bit of a crisis mode. However, what I have found just from going through everything was it's really that time when we start, we're questioning what's going on, not only with our bodies, but with our life, maybe what's going on with us spiritually, maybe the things that we were brought up thinking and believing really don't resonate with us anymore. At the same time, our identity is changing. And we're really starting to try to grasp, hey, what is most important to me now?
Namaste. If you feel like you're in a midlife crisis because you want something more, but you don't know what that is yet, well, I want to offer you a reframe today that midlife is a time for creative reconstruction. My guest today is actually going to offer you some guidance on how you can find the clarity you're searching for so that you can design your life your way. And her name is Karen Herrera, and she is the author of Perimenopause Clarity, a warm, witty guide born from her own search for answers during midlife upheaval. And let's bring her on the show right now and dive into the subject. Welcome, Karen.
Hello, Gloria. How are you?
I'm doing very well today. Yeah. It's been an interesting day of technical weirdness. I'm just going to say, but I'm holding space that everything is going to be wonderful for our conversation today, because I know that this is something that is on. Well, let's face it, all women, we go through this at some point or another. We all go through it, and it can be maybe easier sometimes and harder at other times. And I think it's just, well, you know what? I'm going to go back to the beginning because of where I talked about it becoming this, midlife crisis, you might say, or some people might characterize it that way. And also menopause might even be something that I think in some respects, sometimes we're taught to fear. So I mentioned at the beginning, you like to call it a time for creative reconstruction. So how can this, these hormonal shifts that we go through and the emotional shifts of midlife, how can that really be this catalyst for creative reconstruction or reinstruction?
So we just both, actually.
So we have this more authentic second act in our life.
Yeah. So, whenever I first started going through the change, which we still call it now, it was also at the same time, right? We're in our 40s when it starts, and then it can last, well into our 50s, where if you have kids, your kids are getting a little older. If you're in the middle of your career, you're starting to assess, okay, is this the same place I want to stay? Do I want to think about doing something different in my life? And then at that same time, right, our hormones are all over the place. So sometimes we do start feeling like we're going into a bit of a crisis mode. However, what I have found just from going through everything was it's really that time when we start, we're questioning what's going on, not only with our bodies, but with our life, maybe what's going on with us spiritually, maybe the things that we were brought up thinking and believing really don't resonate with us anymore. At the same time, our identity is changing. And we're really starting to try to grasp, hey, what is most important to me now? And so that creative recalibration that I like to think about is questioning what was important to us in the past and seeing if that is still in line with what really, maybe makes us tick now and going, and what might make us tick going forward. So for me, I have always written mainly for myself. That was a little bit of a creative outlet for me. And then in the middle of the change, I'll talk a little bit more about this as we go into it. I went through some other changes that weren't expected. And I decided to just say, you know what, at this point in time, I'm already rethinking what matters most to me. Maybe it's time for me to start really focusing on my creative outlet more and putting some stuff out there, which is writing. So for me, that's what some of that recalibration means for me, and how I think a lot of women can start thinking about what's going on and reassess what matters and make that change now before, quote, it gets too late. Now, I'm not a big believer in the whole it's too late for anything, but maybe going ahead and taking that time to reassess and recalibrate on their own and focus on what really matters.
Yeah. It's interesting. And you're talking about this, and I'm trying to think back on, like, okay, I started my business in 2009. Like, how old was I? So I was in my 40s when I decided to start a business. That was also the time when I started meditating. So I was, embarking on something different. I had been raised Catholic and still was going to church at that time. I don't anymore. But yeah, it is interesting that I'm going to have to, like, go back and see if I have any, like, journals from that time and try to really look at, was I actually, also going through, I probably was, the physical change of it as well. But I think, oh yeah, in fact, I know I was, or it started after that, because I do feel, and I'm getting off track, we're going to get back.
It's okay, yeah.
but just to maybe even see if you've had, I don't know what your experience has been of it, but I fortunately did not do any type of hormones going through menopause. And I really feel that for me, it was because I was doing this regular meditation practice. I was doing a very deep meditation practice, exploring here and there with vegetarianism, but I had like nighttime sweats, but I didn't have the daytime hot flashes and things that I know my mother had. And she wound up even having a hysterectomy and all that stuff. But I feel very fortunate, and I thank God, or spirit, source, whatever, that I know I was probably cranky, but it's like, oh well, sorry. Other than that, it wasn't too bad. Have you found that? Have you heard anything about that at all? But this is my story anyway, what I'm sticking to.
Yeah. So I can only, you're talking to women friends, and then of course what I went through. So I was a little bit of the opposite, with the exception of the night sweats. Oh my God, night sweats were just awful,
Yeah, I don't like them.
But my mother didn't have a lot of symptoms. And I did. And so, you brought up hormone replacement therapy. So I didn't start doing that until late in my perimenopause year. So I started entering into perimenopause around 42-ish is whenever it started happening for me. But I didn't really know it at the time that that's what was happening, even though the symptoms were coming on, the brain fog was happening. Oh God. And then questioning my own sanity half the time because of, okay, where's my phone? Oh, wait, it's in my hand. Things like that was happening, again, with the brain fog. And then, of course, these snapping at people because somebody touched that pillow again and I'm going to lose it. So all of those things were happening. But I got very much into, I'm very spiritual and I meditate quite often now. But I even started, and see, I'm 52 now. I got into that habit almost about the same time I started doing the hormones. Well, maybe a little bit before then, but that definitely helps center you whenever you're starting to have a little bit of a hormonal like shoot off, right? And I still have time to do that now. And that definitely helps. And I'm still on the hormones, but I've only been doing the hormones about 3.5 years now. And that has just helped me in so many ways. But going back to that practice of just being able to be present and breathe and ask those questions. Okay, what is really going on? And asking the higher self too, just, okay, hold on, help me understand what is happening right now. Like, help me understand, is this a hormone thing or is this something deeper that I need to really sit and meditate on and and go deeper with and ask those deeper questions. And then you'll get the answers, as you know. I mean, you've been meditating, you will get the answers like it's okay, it's hormonal, just breathe, it's okay, you're doing fine. Or you will get those answers where you go, no, I need to keep assessing. I need to go a little deeper and figure out what's going on there. And so going back, right, the recalibration, that's where the meditation really helped me with recalibrating, as well as I don't know, sometimes just journaling it out. You mentioned journals. Yes, I have some journals from years ago where I was just like, what's going on? And I always did have those deeper questions, but not as deep as I've really had in the last 45 years. So.
Yeah. I definitely did not have deeper questions back then. I think it was more of just, what is going on in my life, and why am I, why am I gaining weight, or, why can't I ever, release weight and all that, that.
Yeah. But again, those deeper questions like, hey, I have achieved all the things that I was supposed to achieve. I went to college, got the job, eventually got married. And then of course, whatever, went through the divorce, that happens, 51%, what have it, no big deal. I'm not judging myself on that. But you achieve all of the things that society has told you that you need to have to be happy. And then you have it and you're like, I'm a little meh. I don't know. I'm not like, I'm not unhappy, but you feel like something's missing. Yeah. And then it's like, because I was stifling a lot of my creativity along the way, to have the corporate, to have, the business, to have this or that or what have you, whenever I wasn't ever focusing on the passion around the creative outlet, around writing. I play the flute on the side, and that's a fun little stress reliever. And that's another creative outlet, but not actually the creation. Playing is fun, but the creation is more fun for me. And, going deep and then writing out, like, doing the book or what, creative writing, but that's just for me. Other people, it's painting or drawing or whatever it may be, even cooking, just things like that. Cooking is one of the best creative expressions. I'm just not very great at expressing that creatively. Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I was thinking that right before you said it. I was like, yeah, because, you go through all these things, and it's amazing. And I think that's really something that is worth appreciating, that this really can be a time of just real renewal, of going back to figuring out, what did I like to do maybe before I had kids, or even before I embarked on the job and the career and, and all the things that you're supposed to do. What was I like as a teenager? What gave me pleasure back then, and how can I incorporate that maybe now, even in a different way? Have you found that with even in your own life, or also dealing with other women you've talked to?
Yes, absolutely, because it is that time to reassess, right? Fortunately, if we are fortunate enough to be able to go, okay, I have some savings, I have some things set aside, maybe I can go ahead and take the time to really go after certain passions, like you mentioned, those things that you loved before the world, society, our families, what said, okay, you need to do this, 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 this. You can do that kind of fun stuff later, right? And going back to it, because I think it allows you. I love the topic, the recalibration. This midlife does allow you that time to recalibrate, really does, on going back to what matters to you. And sorry, I lose my train of thought a little bit, and hormones are wearing off a little bit. There goes that brain fog coming in, but I think it is just getting that time back to yourself a little bit. If your children are older, or even if you don't have children. Unfortunately, I was a stepmom when I was married, and then I had a miscarriage, which that had to do with hormones, and there's a whole other thing, and we're not going to go into that. But but it's still now, even though I'm still talking with the girlfriends who, their kids are in college and they're getting their time back to themselves, and they are all going back to what was the me like, exactly what you just mentioned. What am I passionate about? And I did just talk with another girlfriend of mine who was like, I've always wanted to write a book about girls that played softball. And I'm like, that is wonderful. Now you have the time to do it, and so, but midlife does allow you that. And so that's why that whole term crisis now, I don't know, that stupid word has been out there forever, and a lot of it had to do with men and cars, and when I don't even remember what ours
Yeah,
was supposed to
I
be, right?
know.
And so, and I think that's a horrible thing that we do to men too, is say, oh, they have a crisis, they do that. It's like, no, maybe they're finally at a point in time when they're earning enough money and they've taken care of their kids or family, and now they can do some things for themselves. They're not buying the
Mhm.
sports car or whatever at 34, because they're taking care of their stuff. They're taking care of their life. But when they're a little older, they have the ability to do it. So who cares? Write a book, buy a car, do whatever makes you feel good, because it's time to do those
Mhm.
things, and stop worrying about what so many people think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And in fact, men do go through their own sort of, I mean, physical changes as
Yes.
well. I interviewed someone once
Mhm.
on my old podcast, and they were a married couple, and so they both came on to kind of talk about this from the different perspectives. But
Yeah.
yeah, oh shoot, what was I was gonna ask? Um, come back to me in a second. But when you were talking, I was thinking about too that. Um, let me pause for a moment here. Oh, I know. Okay, yeah, because I participate in like different Facebook groups, and especially for like older women, and I for a while because I was trying to do some research, and I would see so many like empty nesters who are
Mhm.
just lost now because the kids aren't home, and a lot
Mhm.
of times the kids don't call. And I kind of get that with so I have to schedule time
Yeah.
to talk to them, because I leave it to them. I may not necessarily hear from them. And and I get it, because I do vaguely remember as a child too that I didn't really like getting on the phone with my mother either, because she
Oh,
was
yeah,
a
I definitely
complain.
did not like to do
So I would kind of avoid it. So
or
I
the
kind of get
grandparents was like, "No." Yeah.
yeah, you're now trying to establish your own life separate from the core family. But
Mhm.
what do you say, or how do you? I don't know if you've dealt with this in working with women who are just really are like lost, and then they're going through this change, but the kids are out of the house now, and they don't know what to do with themselves.
Mhm. Yeah, you know, that's where I go back and just start saying, "What do you love?" What lights you up? For some women, it's just, "Hey, I just wanna have more time to be able to volunteer and give back." And that lights them up, and that's great, because that is something that helps everybody, or it's altruism. It helps us, it helps others. But whenever I have those friends that are like, I'm not certain what I'm gonna do," sometimes I'll even just say, get a journal and just start going. Free write. You will be so surprised at what will come out. And you can even just ask yourself, what are those things that I used to love? What are the things that I love now? You know, maybe it is things like I just want to travel, and that's okay too. But I think a lot of times I try to tell other women, give yourself grace if you're not sure too, because it may not come overnight. And also you might try 4 or 5 different things before you settle on a couple that you really enjoy. And that's okay. The thing I try to help women not do whenever they're going through this is nothing. And when I don't try not to sit and ruminate on not having the answers yet. Any kind of action is good. So getting out and walking is good.
Mhm.
Meditating is wonderful, right? Cooking, yeah, anything,
Mhm.
you know, um, just movement brings clarity all
Mhm.
the time, any
Yeah,
kind of movement. So
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, that's really what I just try to do is just I hate saying, but just do anything. Don't do
Mhm.
nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah,
It
and
will come. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking too and this was even we did this when, we still have the kids at home, but
Uh-huh.
is, you could foster a pet, if you don't have your own pets,
Yeah.
or foster a child, or,
Mhm.
or become a big brother or a big sister type of, join that organization or something, because if you really do like working with kids, or a Girl Scout leader or something like that,
Yeah.
because you've got these skills, you don't have to let them just sit by the wayside now that, your own kids are out of the house, and until you figure out what you want to do. And I do like
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
just keep trying.
I've even seen, because we all have our little community organizations. You might be on the email list, see what's going on, who has something for sale, blah, blah, blah. But I have seen somewhere there are people who are just like, hey, I need some help, Monday through Thursday, picking up my child from school. If there's any way
Mhm.
you can help, I mean, things like that. We're like, yeah, my kids are out of the house. I have more flex time now, or I'm working at home, or whatever it is. And I would be happy to go pick up your children from work or from school for you and take them to their ballet or class or whatever it is, because somebody
Mhm.
else who's younger
Yeah,
and they're still working there, they don't have that flexibility.
right.
And that gets you out, and then it gets you exposed to other little, souls and ideas, and it really does fire you up being around, kiddos
Oh,
of certain age
oh,
groups,
yeah,
right? It just makes you go,
absolutely.
wow, I didn't think about this. So yeah, I mean, those types of things can really just work wonders on your own, like, sense of, I'm not sure what's going on with my life now kind of moments, right? It really can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, actually.
Mm, that's so good. I one of the things I think we maybe well, no, actually, let me ask you this. What is like a common misconception that women have about this time of life, going through this change?
Oh, man, I think one of them is how early it can start,
Mm.
really, because growing up, I mean, I use this example a lot, but growing up, I always thought a woman going through the change looked like one of the Golden Girls, right? I never thought that they looked like, okay, I'm 52. And, granted, people are like, you don't look your age. I'm like, I get it. My mom's, everybody ages differently. Don't give me any shit. Sorry. But I always thought somebody was a lot older. Now, fortunately, we're hearing a lot more people talking about it, which is great. But
Mm.
one misconception is like, if you're in your early 40s and you're starting to feel off, you may want to go and try to get some tests run and talk to your doctor about that. Now, get the full hormone panels run, because if you can find out early what's happening, you can start the different practices, whether it is, breathing techniques, or, maybe it is hormones, maybe it's not, maybe it's just, changing our diet a little bit because you're early on in it and you don't need any, full hormones yet, but at least you understand what's going on. So that's one misconception that I, try to tell women about is, hey, it's not, 50, and it doesn't only last like a couple of years. Another misconception is people start saying menopause like it's this big transition period. Menopause is one day. Everything leading up to the day where, menopause is actually just the 12-month anniversary of our last period, of our last menstrual cycle. Once we haven't had a period for 12 months, then we're considered to be flipped into menopause, and then we're postmenopausal. So that's another misconception about what actually is menopause. And also, oh, excuse me, I can go on the subject all day, but is that it's a medical condition. It's not a medical
Oh,
condition. It is
that's
a
right.
life transition, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is something that, like you mentioned in the beginning, it does. Of course, it's going to happen to all women. Now, some women flip into it, but that's because they've maybe had a hysterectomy or had, some cancers or what have you, and that's, a small minority. But the rest of us, it's happening. It's happening to all of us. It happens over a span of years. And the last one that I will talk about is, it absolutely does not happen the same way for every single woman. Right? Not everybody, you mentioned this, not everybody is going to have hot flashes. Not everybody is going to have night sweats. I also had heart palpitations, which I had no idea. And they're pretty disturbing when they happen. I had these heart palpitations that would come in, and that's just due to different hormones fluctuating and spiking and up and down at different times too.
Wow.
And so there is a wide variety of symptoms out there. It's not just, I can't remember, I forgot my keys and I snapped at my dog for looking at me weird, and, and I'm sweating, or I'm, not sweating. There's a wide variety of symptoms that can happen. So it's really important to understand, if you are starting to feel off and you're in your early 40s, you may just want to talk to your doctor about running some hormonal tests to see if things are starting to shift for you, versus oh, I can't remember things. Maybe now I have ADHD and maybe I need to get on those drugs or get on antidepressants or something else, because that's another thing too that can happen is I don't think it's this. Your doctor's going to look at you and say you're not menopausal because not everybody's properly trained on it. You need to start advocating for yourself and listening to your body and doing some research, because that's what I had to do.
Yeah. Well, I know, I think when I started having the night sweats, I'm sure I went on to Dr. Google, and I was like, okay,
We all do.
why is,
Dr.
why is
Google
this
and
happening?
WebMD. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that was kind of one of the things that came up for me. And, and then I probably did go to a doctor, I think, at some point, but it is interesting that, yeah, there's still so much of a, I don't know, cultural bias or just this cultural idea that, well, number one, that is a problem, and also I think there's, you go from extremes of like, something that's like, oh, well, it's not normal, or it's a problem, and that, drugs are going to be the way to fix it. But it's also not just something that's one and done. And you're right. It's like, I mean, the word menopause is really, it's the pausing of the menses. That's it.
Yes.
Pretty literal. It's just, it doesn't, but there's this, I didn't realize there was this whole before period, and I was like, oh, this can last like,
years, 10 years,
like
sometimes
years.
times, I mean, yeah.
My mom never told me that, and because she probably didn't even, know it at the time either. So I'm going to have to start cluing my daughter in, because she's got 10 more years, and then she's going to be in the middle of that too. So
yeah. And it can happen earlier too. God, I feel awful for if there's a woman in their late 30s and they're starting to go through it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you haven't even gotten that many great years yet, and you're starting to deal with it. I feel so bad, right? Yeah, it's rough and it's confusing. And the people that we are taught to trust don't necessarily even know the proper timing of it either. And it's just because of unfortunate lack of training. We assume that OBGYNs or gynecologists are going to be the ones that know everything, but not all of them do. Really only about a third of them get any formal training in their residency programs, even today. Yeah, there's been studies out, you go to menopause.org, and you can see how the studies are showing that. Now, again, you're starting to see a lot more people in the public eye talk about it, right? I mean, Halle Berry put Gavin Newsom on, notice, because he wasn't advocating for more menopause care and things like that. And more people are talking about it. Drew Barrymore had a flash or had a hot flash on her show, and it's gone viral. Yeah, so we're finally starting to see people talk about it more. And when people talk about it more, that's when we can start advocating for our providers. Hopefully they're getting more training. And so now they're starting to do more studies, and they're showing that some people, for their continuing ed classes around menopause and perimenopause care, it used to be that they wouldn't fill out, or they wouldn't fill up these classes. Now they're starting to fill up, and they're having to have more because more providers are wanting that extra training, because all of us are going, we need some help, and we don't feel like we're getting the right kind of help. So it's good. We're slowly starting to see that in, 2026.
Yeah, I know. Yes. That seems a little crazy, but we'll take what we can get.
We will.
That we are having these conversations, and so I'm glad. I hope we've got a lot of people listening today. I hope you're paying attention, taking notes, and I do think one of the most important lessons is really advocating for yourself, as you mentioned, and doing research, talking to your doctor. If you're not getting the help or the answers from your doctor, then, talk to your friends or family members and get a referral to somebody else who can help you. Because
yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I had to, So the story behind how the book came out was I had been writing a funny essay, because I was still writing on the side. And then and this is, last March of 2025, I was in the middle of just writing a funny essay about perimenopause. I mean, maybe I was going to be brave enough to actually put it out there. But then I was laid off from a job I had for 6 years, a corporate job. Out of nowhere, laid off. And that was when my whole recalibrating really started kicking in. Like, here's the thing. I just got laid off from a job I wasn't all that excited about. And I felt like this was the universe kicking me in the butt going, it's time for you to actually go after your dream. 6 years, I was fortunate enough, at least I got 6 weeks of severance. The company actually dissolved. So they weren't doing that that well. And so I decided to say, look, I'm getting some severance before I start going back and looking for another job that I'm not necessarily going to care about. Maybe I should focus on getting some of my work out there. And I decided to take that essay and turn it into the guide that I wish I had. Because yes, there are books out there that are good and they're written by healthcare professionals, but I wasn't getting the help I wanted or needed from my healthcare professional. So I told my story in the book, but also put a lot of different ways that women can get help, from diet or, different types of breathing, different types of herbs and adaptogens. Again, this is a holistic guide as well, not just here's my story, but and then the pros and cons of each. I mean, I have an entire chapter on emotional wellness and how to talk to your partner, as well as, sexual health as well, because that's another thing women are still, we don't want to talk about that. I hate this term, but we hear, oh, we're drying up. No, we're not drying up. We're going through the change. Things happen. There are remedies, and I put them in there, right? Because I wanted that. And I also told it from a little bit of a humorous side, right? Because you can't laugh at this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I just said, here's something out there as a woman talking to another woman, and here's what I went through, and here's all of the research that I did, and all of the scientific studies too, because I wanted somebody to go, is that true? Yes, you can go right here and you can see it at the Mayo Clinic or menopause.org or some others. There's a lot in there that I use to back up a lot of the science around, some of the remedies that even I put in there, things that helped me, and then even some things I hadn't tried yet, because I was like, hey, there's so much out here I didn't even know, right? Because nobody's telling me this. So I just wanted to take that time in life, turn it into my first book out there, not so that I could be the perimenopause whisperer, just so I could say, hey, this is everything that I looked into over the last 10 years. And now I found all the science behind it, and hopefully it's going to help another woman, feel a little better about herself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yes, you don't have to be the perimenopause queen necessarily, but it's a start, because now hopefully you'll inspire someone else who might be able to then either share their own story or even just, get a group of women together and talk about their experiences. Cause I think that's so important.
Or not feel so alone, like there's something wrong with you. It's like, I get it. I felt like there was a lot wrong with me. And there's some days I have that and I have to go, Karen, okay, no, reel it in. It's okay. Deep breath. Everything's fine. But it is good to have those other women that you can talk to about it too. Mm-hmm. Because that's the thing, is community. When we start saying, okay, I'm not the only one. What helped you? That's wonderful. Oh, you're having this happen. Here's what helped me. That's something that's more powerful than really anything. Than potentially getting misdiagnosed by your provider as, we should up your ADHD medication, which is what my GP wanted to do for me about 4 years ago. And it's like, wasn't that. Yeah. It was because hormones were changing and things were reacting differently. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. We really do need more groups of women getting together, and it's so. I know I've probably talked about this on the show before, but it's because I feel like I did recently, but it's so weird. It's like technology has brought us together, and yet at the same time, it seems like there's so much that's taking us apart. And I was fortunate when I first moved. We were living in Miami, and then we moved up to Orlando, and I got in touch with a group that was called Mothers and More. And it was a wonderful organization for not just for stay-at-home moms, but also for working moms. And we were, there were some that were a little bit older than me, most, and one or two, and then some that were younger, and then we all had kids of different ages. So we could kind of share different experiences that we had and how we've dealt with some of these things. And I really liked that. And it was, unfortunately, I think think, I don't know if it was the pandemic or maybe even right before that. I think it wound up, I think because everything was going online, people joining Facebook
Yeah.
groups, and that they wound up closing down the organization. But we still need this stuff.
Yeah. It's still so valuable to have just other people that you can look in the eye and go, yeah, I get it. And you're okay. And you're doing great. Even though you might not feel like you are, you're doing amazing. And by the way, here's some other things that may help. And hey, thank you for telling me that thing you told me last week changed my life. Yeah. I would never have known it if I hadn't gotten together with these other women to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What becomes possible when a woman maybe stops seeing this time of life as a problem to fix and really starts seeing it as an invitation?
I know this is a bit of a cliche type of phrase, but the sky is the limit. When we start being less, I guess, afraid of, we all start, okay, we're going in life, and then we get to a certain age, and then, oh my gosh, I think it's going to all go, it's like, no, that's actually not what happens. When we start being less afraid to be ourselves, which is, to me, what has really happened in this time of life, is I've just said, you know what, I got to listen to me now, and not be listening to all of what everybody else is telling me I need to be doing for me. It's amazing what you can do and accomplish and have. And I think also it's because you do give yourself more grace, right? So if you have a little hiccup while you're trying to go after your dream again, you might just laugh it off. Whereas in my 20s, I'm not laughing anything off. I'm beating myself into a pulp because I feel like, oh, I made this mistake, and now I'm going to ruminate on it for a couple of days. And oh my gosh, what are those people? Oh, I saw them looking at me weird, even though I don't know them. I'm going to go ahead and beat myself up for the way they might be thinking about me now. It's like, no, this is that time when you go, you know what? I just don't care as much about those types of things. And whenever you don't care, that's when the sky is the limit. Because you're going to keep going, and you're going to trip, and you're going to figure it out, and it's going to be great. And you're going to learn so much more about yourself, even about other people, by opening up more. And I think that's what happens in this phase of life is I think we get more open. Now, some people can seem to get more closed off, but of course, another thing that I do is I don't judge anyone. It's hard to say that. There are days when we go, oops, I accidentally judged them, or I yelled at them when they weren't driving fast enough or whatever. But I think now it's you judge yourself less. And when you judge yourself less, you actually start judging other people less. You let them be them too, right? We don't understand what's going on in somebody else's life, and you give other people grace, and you do that to other people, and you start going, why am I giving them grace, but I'm not giving myself grace? And then you start giving yourself more grace. I don't know if that answered your question, but I think long story short is once you get to that point, you can not be afraid anymore of going after whatever you want.
Absolutely. I think that I agree with that 100%. And one thing I want to touch on too, as we're starting to get closer to the end here, but you touched on it, and I know I did too, that you started doing some meditation. And I know that, part of this time of life is we do start asking these deeper questions, like, why am I here? And, and what is this all for? And we start, delving, maybe changing our beliefs, our spiritual beliefs, maybe something shifts a little bit. What role does intuition or inner guidance play during this phase of life?
I personally think it's one of the most important pieces of this puzzle because, I think I mentioned, like, as we are young, when we're younger, when we're kids and we're under the age of 10, we're kind of guided by that, even though we don't know it.
Right.
We start getting, I hate using this term, but we do. We start getting programmed by society, by our family, of what we need to think, what we need to, how we need to worship. what those things are that should be important to us, get a college degree, get a career, get married, get all these things. And whenever we start to slow down and do that recalibration in midlife, and we start asking those deeper questions, our intuition and our higher selves, who have always been talking to us, we just haven't been in a place where we could hear them. We start hearing it. We start hearing them more. We start trusting our intuition more. You can feel it for me, I can feel it in my gut more than I ever could. Whenever I meditate, I ask the question, I take a deep breath, and then the answer starts to come. And that is our higher self or our intuition, or however we want to talk about it, right? Guides or answers, whatever term works for you. But for me, and in this part of life, in this phase of life, and we start calming, we start not listening to all of the chaos around us, that's when you can hear your guides and your intuition even more, and actually respond in the way that helps us get to where we want to be. Meaning, don't be afraid anymore. You're okay because you are being guided. And this thing that you always felt was your little calling or what have you. By the way, Karen, little Karen, big Karen, what? You were right all along that this was the direction you needed to go. And it's okay you didn't go after it before, but now you're going to listen, right? And you're yeah, I'm going to listen. So I think that the ability to hear and respond is much easier in midlife than it has ever been, because we start earlier in life, we're going to question, and maybe I'm just blah, 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 or this dream didn't mean anything or what have you, right? Because of so many things that are coming at us. But when you start turning off the outer and you can hear it and you can feel it, that this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And so that goes back to that advice I give other women is like, if you can get yourself some quiet time and and not worry about if I'm doing it wrong. I have a lot of girlfriends like, I don't think I'm meditating, I'm doing it wrong. All these thoughts are coming in and out. It's okay. You just try to observe the thought versus feeling like you are the thought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's this, I have found, and I was telling this to someone earlier today, that every decade now has gotten to be so much better. I'm really enjoying life more and more. And I think that's a really, I want you to hear this at home, wherever you are, to know that this is not something to be afraid of. This is a time to embrace, because there's so much more freedom now. Because when we're young, we're trying to do all the things that we think are right, and we're worried still about what other people might think of us. But now, I don't care as much. It's got to please me first and foremost. And if I piss off somebody, it's like, well, I'm sorry, but that's your problem. It's not my problem anymore. As long as I'm doing the best I can,
Yeah, we're not saying in a bad way. Like we're not telling that they're not allowed to be pissed off. It's okay. You can be pissed off. It's fine.
That's your choice.
But I am not going to I'm like the double negative queen today. I am not going to not do something out of fear that it's going to piss you off.
Yeah.
Or just, I'm not going to psychoanalyze anybody else, but I could. But I'm not going to. But I think you understand. You're picking up what I'm putting down.
It's not really selfish to be selfish, what people call selfish, where you're taking care of yourself, because really when someone accuses you of being selfish, it's usually because they want you to take care of them. They want you to do what they want. So now who's really being selfish? So it's like,
it's like, I'm not being selfish. I'm self-caring now. And I didn't used to self-care. Gosh, I don't, I'm thinking, did I ever self-care in my 20s? What about my 30s? And in 40s, mid 40s, I started going, I need something, or I'm going to lose it, because you're just trying to fulfill everybody else's expectations. And we're wondering why we're feeling empty in our late 40s, right? Or mid 40s or whatever. That's why. It's because we have not been the selfish and the self-caring way like we should have.
Absolutely. Oh goodness. This has been so good. Is if someone listening to this right now is feeling, confused, overwhelmed, or scared, what is like one piece of advice you want to leave them with today if they get nothing else from this conversation?
Gosh, it's gonna be a little bit of a drawn out piece of advice, but
It's okay.
the first thing I'm gonna say is give yourself a little grace. If you're and by the way, your feelings are always valid. You're feeling this way for a reason. It just might not be the reason that you really think. And that's why taking the time to have some alone time, either to breathe and reflect and ask those internal questions, or even just sit and just start free writing. Just write whatever you're thinking, because sometimes whenever you get it out and then you reread it, it's not as scary as you think it is. Because sometimes we're just reacting to the world around us, and oh geez, it's hard not to sometimes, but give yourself a little grace, understand that your feelings are valid, but then start to question maybe why am I thinking this? Because sometimes we're just focused on the fact that we're thinking something and we're not asking the why behind it. And if you can really get the why, well, why am I feeling like I'm not doing the best that I can? Oh, well, it's because I see other people doing this and that. Okay, why is it that other people doing this and that is making me feel less of a person? And then if you can get to the bottom of it, it might be just as, you know what, it's just because I decided at one point that I chose career A versus career B. And at the time, I chose that because I thought that was the best choice for me. Bam, now you've just given yourself grace and stop comparing and worrying and ruminating, right? So it sometimes it does take a little while to go a lot deeper, but I don't want to ever tell anybody that their feelings are wrong.
Yeah.
Right? We're having a feeling for a reason. It just it might not be the reason that we're initially thinking we're having that feeling.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it might not be this big hairy monster that we think it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just information, and it's time. It's an invitation to get curious and figure out,
100%.
okay, what
Yes.
what is behind this? Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And I don't
that.
think we don't take enough time to do that whenever we're younger.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. I have a funny little closing thing, but I remember whenever that Prince song 1999 came out, and I was doing the math when I was younger, and I was like, when that song comes out, I'm going to be this age. I'm going to be so old. And I'm like, okay, when that happened, I was like turning 27. What? I'm like, really? Way back then, I thought I was going to be so old. And here I am,
I know.
almost double. I'm like, okay. As I've gotten older, I would never want to be a younger version of myself.
Yeah.
Ever. I'm so grateful for all of the BS that is happening, because it's led me here today. And if I keep thinking like that, it's like, oh my gosh, then in 5 years, it's going to be even better. In 5 years, I'm going to be even feeling better, because that's just what has happened over time. But I didn't think that way in my 20s.
Oh, I know. Yes. I remember, like in I don't know, junior high or something, or grade school, just thinking, in the year 2000. Oh, because for me, it wasn't the song 1999. It was in the year 2525, or whatever. And it was like, one man still be alive. And that's what I grew up with. And it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'll be so old. I'll be in my 30s.
I'm going to be so old. It's going to be.
I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, youth is wasted on young, but yeah.
Yeah. I have enjoyed this so much, but we and I know everybody else is, and for those of you who are listening to this, you don't see that Karen has a lovely cover of her book behind her. So for anyone who wants to get the book or learn more about you, and the book is Perimenopause Clarity, where's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can find me at KarenAHerrera.com, KarenaHerrera.com. You can email me at KarenAHerrera.com. And then, there's also other information on my website as well. But Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Even if any stories anyone has they want to share, hey, I'm probably going to go, hear you, sister. I've had that too. Or my girlfriend, Elisa. Yeah, that was her to a T. Poor thing. Yeah.
Well,
But
you
I've
know,
enjoyed this so much. Thank you.
and
Yeah.
there could be a second book down the line, the post menopause.
You never
What
know. Yeah.
now?
Right now I'm working on a couple of the well, fiction ideas that I'm outlining as well, and another
Oh,
nonfiction book
good.
that's not related. But you know what?
Yeah.
There's so many things that are still going on with me that I might have to go do another like post menopause clarity. It'll be like one sentence is like, we rock life, or two sentences, we rock, you got this, la la.
Love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Gloria. This has been so wonderful.
Thank you. And I do want to thank all of you for watching and for listening today. And I hope that you did take away a few nuggets of amazing wisdom that Karen shared with us, and hope that you will use it now going forward, so that you can start to design your life your way.